In this video, I'm going to be telling you about the fastest way to get a green card in the United States from any country in the world. So if you're interested in traveling to the US, from Cambodia, from Japan, from Singapore, from Nigeria, from South Africa, Rwanda, no matter the country you might be in at the moment, you can secure permanent residency and get your green card from your local country of residence before traveling to the US. You want to know more? Give me 1 second. I'm going to dash off to the market. I'm going to be right back with more.
You know the way I do it when I drop lyrical. Anytime I spit lyrical, philosophical. All the niggas mimical, but they stand still on taking literal. Punchlines collateral. Maximum damage.
Hello YouTube, hello Chronics, how are you all doing today? It's still your king from Nigeria Fuse from FuseChronicles.com. We are a travel, tourism and lifestyle channel giving you value bombs. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, I don't know what you're doing, I don't know what you're waiting for. Go on down there, smash the subscribe button, click the bell icon to stay notified when we drop new content, and give us a thumbs up if you love the kind of value and videos we drop. It helps us a lot. It tells the YouTube algorithm that you found this video interesting and valuable, and you're going to find more people just like you all around the world to show this video to. Now let's get right into business. Now, like I said in the beginning of the video, I'm going to be telling you the fastest way to get a green card from your local country, your current country of residence, on your way to the US. So if you're interested in traveling to the US and you're asking, how can I be a permanent resident? How can I get my citizenship? I'm going to be showing you the fastest route to get that documentation. I'm going to be talking about the employment-based preference visa, okay? It's in 3 different classes. There's the first employment-based visa to the US, there's the second employment-based preference visa to the US, and there's the third employment-based preference visa to the US. Now, because this video is going to go in depth and it's going to be a little bit long, I'm going to have to divide this video or this particular episode into 3 parts. The first part is going to cover the first employment-based preference visa. The second part is going to cover the second employment-based preference visa. And the third part is going to cover the third employment-based preference visa. So feel free to watch all 3 parts, or you can skip to the part you want to watch, okay? Also, each episode or each part of this episode is going to be divided into different chapters. You can skip to the part you want to get information about. Now, like I said, the fastest way to get your green card or permanent residence, or that's the short form of saying citizenship in the US from your current country or your original country of nationality, is through an employment-based preference visa. Let's go into the first employment-based preference visa, which is known as the Eb1. This is a particular type of visa that is given to people from select professions who have shown extraordinary ability in the field of endeavor, whether it's working for a company, whether it's working as a freelancer, whether it's working as a self-employed practitioner or someone who owns his company, but you have exhibited extraordinary ability. And how do they know you've exhibited extraordinary ability? You've gotten some certain amount of accolades. It might be through trophies, it might be through awards, it might be through some form of recognition, national recognition. It is categorically stated that you have to have gotten national or international recognition, which means you are eligible to apply for the Eb1 visa. The fields and profession that is covered under this statute, under this particular class of visa, I'm talking about the Eb1, are people who are in business, people who are in the academia. Academia means scholastic people who are maybe, for example, professors, researchers, people who are in the arts, or people who are into sports. These are the category or the fields that this particular class of visa covers. So like I said earlier, you need to have shown extraordinary ability. by virtue of accolades or awards that you might have garnered over time in this field to be eligible to apply. I'm going to be talking about the criteria for eligibility for the Eb1 visa, or the first preference employment-based visa. Number one, like I said earlier, you either need to be working in the business sector, you need to be a scholar, a professor, or a researcher, you need to be into arts, maybe you are a graphic designer, a painter or something, you need to be into sports. And you must have gotten some certain level of acclaim, meaning some certain level of award recognition nationally in your country of nationality or internationally. That's number one. Number two, you need to have been active, practicing and making active contribution in your field of endeavor for no less than 3 years. So if you were doing it for 2 years, you're not eligible. It has to be at least 3 years and above. Now, when they say it has to be 3 years and above, it means you are still in that field as of this moment, from 3 years ago till now, and you're still working actively in that field. You must have gained a huge body of experience so that upon entering the US, you could easily fill in a teaching position. Say for example, you're a professor, or a research position. Say for example, you are a research fellow, or say you could easily be drafted into the US national team for whatever sport you specialize in, or get into the arts if you're an actor, if you're a painter, or whatever. It's gonna be easy for you to have been on that international level of standardization to get into working in these roles when you go stateside or you get to the US. The third criteria, you need to have been working in an executive or managerial capacity in a company. And you needed to have been working at least for 3 years outside the US and at least for 1 year in a subsidiary company who has its parent in the US. Say for example, you're working for Pfizer. So you're working for Pfizer in South Africa. Pfizer has a branch of this company in the US. You needed to have been working at least 1 year for a subsidiary company whose parent is in the US but has a subsidiary in a different country. This is because it's going to be easy to transfer your skill set, your expertise to the US to continue in whatever capacity you were working when you were working for the subsidiary of this company outside the US. Now, we're going to be talking about the 3 subcategories under the Eb1 visa. So the 3 subcategories are the Eb1 Extraordinary Ability, that is the first one. The Eb1 Professor and Researcher for Per Excellence category, that is 2. And the third one is the Eb1 Multinational Manager and Executive category. So I'm going to be breaking it down. I'm going to be starting from the first one, which is the Eb1 Extraordinary Abilities subcategory. Under the first preference employment-based visa, there's a subcategory known as the Extraordinary Abilities category. Now, like I said at the start, these are people who have been working in the field of business, in the field of the academia, so they're scholars, maybe professors, researchers, maybe sports people, or people who are working in the field of the arts, actors, painters, and stuff. But they have shown extraordinary abilities. It means in this field there is no competition. Say for example, if you wanted to point these people in everyday life, you look to people like Malala. I'm talking about the lady who was shot in Afghanistan and started leading women emancipation and women's rights movement, who later got the Nobel Peace Prize award. We're talking about writers and scholars like Wole Soyinka in Nigeria, who has also received the Nobel Laureate, the Nobel Peace Prize award. And these are the kind of people who are eligible to apply for an Eb1 visa under the Extraordinary Abilities subcategory. So if you are this kind of person who've gotten national accolade or national recognition in your country of nationality or internationally, you are eligible to apply for the Eb1 Visa under the Extraordinary Abilities Subcategory. Now, under the Extraordinary Abilities Subcategory of the Eb1 Visa, the individual or the applicant who is looking to get into the US under this subcategory has the right to petition the United States government and does not need his US employer to do this on his behalf. He has the right to petition the US government for a particular job position, or maybe he has already received an offer from a company in the US but is not happy with the salary, or maybe he has received information of the area or state or place or street or county where he's going to be staying and he's not happy with this. He can submit a petition. Okay, he can submit a petition to the State Department saying, I don't like this, I don't like that, and things can be changed or things can be done to the liking of this personality. Now, not all subcategories gives applicants the right to be self-petitioners. Most of the other categories, petition is submitted on your behalf by the company who is offering you employment in the US. And this is something I forgot to mention earlier. Under the EB status, which is the employment-based preference visa category, you get automatic employment from an employer in the US even before you touch feet in the US soil. So say for example, you live in South Africa, you live in Rwanda, you live in Ghana or Nigeria, and you're going to the US under the employment-based first, second, or third preference visa. It's a little bit different in the employment-based third preference visa, which is the EB3, but I'll get to that down the line. But usually, you get employment before you even take off from your country of nationality. So this is something I forgot to mention. The Eb1 Extraordinary Abilities subcategory, it is guided by a very high legal standard. Now what this means is you have to prove without any shadow of a doubt that you are someone who is at the highest point in your field, profession, or career. Okay? There is no messing around. There is no, oh, my company recognized me for 5 months running. That is not enough. You needed to have been recognized maybe by your union. Say you were a journalist, you needed to have been recognized by your union on a national level. So you've won a series of awards on a national level, or you might have gotten some international acclaim, some recognition, some plaque, or some award that says this person was recognized due to his exemplary experience or achievement in this particular field. It's very strict. If you don't meet the standards, which I'm going to be getting onto in a little bit, you are going to be denied visa under this status. Say by chance you are at the top of your career. Let's just say you're at the top of your career. You've made scientific advances in your career, or you've made some, maybe you are the Elon Musk of your field. And you know how Elon Musk is, he's achieved great things, and not all of them have been, he's not gotten recognition for all his achievements. So maybe this is your story. Maybe you've achieved and made great strides in your field of endeavor, but you don't have any form of award or certification to show for it. You're covered under some different eligibility criteria, okay? But out of these 10 criteria, you need to meet at least 3. Now, what are these criteria? Now let's get into it. Criteria number 1, you need to have a certification or some form of memorabilia that shows that you garnered this number of awards in your field. So you must have been honored nationally or internationally for advances made in this particular field. Number 2, you need to be a member of an association, a group, a set, an order whose criteria for entry has to be excellence backed by achievement in this particular field of endeavor. Let me break this down for you guys to understand what I mean. Say, for example, there is an association called the CRIT, which is for people who are in the field of research. You need to be someone who is at the topmost level of his profession in the research field to be able to gain entrance into this group. One, you need to also have broken new ground or made a huge stride in your research field to be eligible to be a member of this group. Now, if you're applying for your Eb1 Visa under the Extraordinary Abilities Subcategory, you need to at least have passed this particular criteria to be considered. Criteria number 3, you need to have been featured in some trade publication that has to do with your field of expertise. In this publication, your profile needs to have been highlighted, the strides you've made in this field, the milestones you've covered, the awards you've received, or some form of continuous, consistent accomplishment that you've been able to do in this particular profession. Number 4, there need to be documentation or documents that shows that you single-handedly or as a part of a collective critique subordinate or a group of subordinates who are into research related to your field of expertise. I repeat, you need to have single-handedly or as part of a collective criticize the work, the body of work of subordinates working in your field of endeavor. Number 5, there needs to be evidence that as a result of accomplishment and achievement made by your work, maybe in the field of research, maybe as in your capacity as a professor, as an executive, as a business person, as a sportsman, as a scientist, by virtue of work done by you, accomplishments reached by yourself, you've been able to transform your field of expertise in some way, shape, or form. Now, there needs to be some document evidence that shows this happened due to your input in this field. Number 6, there needs to be evidence of some scholarly paper written by yourself consistently in your field of expertise that documents your research work, that documents your business approach, your business technique, your business methodology, your advances in sports, your advances in art, or whatever field of endeavor that you are into that is acceptable under this Visa category. There needs to be some scholarly documentation. So you need to have written series of paper that itemize your achievement and advancement in this field. So criteria number 7. If you are an artist, maybe you're a painter or you are maybe an actor or an actress, your body of work needs to have been exhibited or featured in the topmost gallery or in the topmost arts exhibition in your country. This is a very huge criteria for people in the arts. Number 8, you need to show evidence of a lead role or a major role played by yourself in a scientific endeavor, in a research endeavor, in a business endeavor, sport endeavor, art endeavor. You need to show that you played at least a significant role in some way, shape, or form that enhanced your field. Okay, you need to have documented evidence that proves to this effect. Number 9, you need to show some evidence that your wages are by far higher than any other member of your professional circle, I mean your peers. So you need to show that the wages received for your work is by far higher than any other person in your field. Obviously, what you're trying to prove here is if you're at the top of your career, you should be able to receive wages that is commensurate with your contribution to your field. Number 10. You need to show documented evidence of reaching the highest points in the performing arts. If you are applying for this visa under the Extraordinary Abilities Subcategory, if you're in the arts profession, you need to prove that you got to the highest point commercially in the performing arts. Okay, so these are the 10 criteria for eligibility into the employment-based first preference visa under the Extraordinary Abilities Subcategory. Now, like I said earlier, you only need to meet at least 3 out of 10 to be eligible to be granted visa under this subcategory. There are enormous benefits to people who apply for the first employment-based preference visa under the Extraordinary Abilities Subcategory. Number 1, you don't need to apply for labor certification. You don't need to apply this. You don't need to apply for this document. Your company, the company that is employing, doesn't also need to apply for this document on your behalf. This criteria or this requirement is waived. Now, what is a labor certification? A labor certification is a document that highlights the terms of agreement between you and the company who is employing you. Say, for example, the company in the US is employing you and wants to pay you $20,000 per month as wages for service rendered or in a professional capacity for whatever you're doing for them, and maybe this employment is for 3 to 4 years. It's itemized in the labor certification. Now, under this subcategory, which is the Extraordinary Ability subcategory in the employment-based first preference visa, this particular requirement is waived. You don't need to apply for labor certification. Another benefit that you get when you apply for an Eb1 visa under the Extraordinary Abilities subcategory is the fact that you don't need to hold down employment in the US. You don't need a company to offer you a job placement. You don't need a company to offer you employment in the US before you're granted this visa and given your green card. This requirement is waived for you as well, just as in the labor certification. You don't need to hold a job to get into the US because it is perceived that you are a high value applicant. You're an applicant that is supposed to be able to move that sector or subsector further by virtue of his body of work, so you don't need to hold a job before you get to the US. This is huge, guys. This is huge. The third benefit you stand to get by applying under the subcategory of the Extraordinary Abilities in the Eb1 status visa is the fact that you get your visa processed and your green card processed quicker than those who are processing their visa under the employment-based second preference visa and third preference visa. Yours is processed way quicker than the other two classes of visa. Okay, so by virtue of being in the Extraordinary Ability subcategory of the Eb1 visa application process, your visa application is fast-tracked, your green card is fast-tracked, and you get it delivered as quick as possible. Okay, so you now understand what I meant when I said the fastest way to get your green card or to get a permanent residency in the US. This is one of such methods. Let's move on to the second subcategory under the Eb1 class of visa. The second subcategory, or otherwise known as the Eb1b. So the first one was Eb1a. This is known as the Eb1b. Now this is the subcategory known as the professor and researcher par excellence category. Now this is for people in the academics. These are people who are in the academia, people who are professors, people who are researchers or scientists. This is the status, this is the subcategory that you need to apply for the Eb1 visa under. Not under the first one, but under this one. Like I said earlier, those who are applying, what is wrong with me? Those who are applying under the Eb1b Subcategory, which is a category for professors and researchers, need to show exceptional ability in their body of work. So if you are a professor, you must be able to show that somehow you've been able to advance your field of expertise or your field of operations. If you're a researcher, you must have been able to have had discoveries under your belt or done things that are going to show that you help the advancement of this research field in whatever capacity you're working on. So that exceptional ability needs to be proven without a shadow of a doubt. Now, you're going to understand the difference when I said for those who were in the Extraordinary Abilities subcategory, they had the benefit, the sole benefit of being self-petitioners. Now, under the Eb1b subcategory, which is for professors and researchers, you need your employer, the company or the institute or institution that has offered you employment in the US. And yes, you need to get employment in the US. Now, your employer in the US is going to file both your I-140 form and they're going to submit a petition on your behalf. So you don't do it by yourself. You're not going to be a self-petitioner. Instead, the institute or company that is offering you employment in the US is going to be the one that's going to file your petition on your behalf. When your petition is being submitted by your potential employer, all documents that proves that you are exceptional in your field of endeavor, your employment letter, your permanent employment letter, and all supporting documents have to be submitted together with your petition. And remember, like I said earlier, you are not doing this by yourself. Your employer is doing this on your behalf. In addition to this, you need to prove that you have been in this field, whether as a professor, whether as a researcher, you need to have been doing this for at least 3 years and more. So I guess people who were just made professors are not eligible. So if you were just made a professor, you need to wait for a period of maybe an extra 3 years or an extra 4 years to apply for visa to get that permanent residency status under this subcategory. I'm going to share with you guys the 6 criteria that you need to meet to be eligible to be granted visa under the Eb1b status, which is subcategory for professors and researchers. Now, out of these 6 criteria, you need to submit documentation that proves without any shadow of a doubt that you meet at least 2. Okay, so let's begin. Number 1. You need to submit evidence in form of documents or memorabilia that proves that you have been recognized nationally or internationally for your accomplishment and achievement in this particular field, either as a professor or as a research scientist. Number 2. You need to be a member of an association, a group, a sect, an order whose requirement for entry is excellence in a field of endeavor. Specifically, the field that you are working in right now. Proof that you've enhanced the well-being of this field by virtue of your contribution. So you need to show documented evidence to this effect. Number 3. Your profile needs to have been highlighted in your industry or in a publication of notes for your industry, highlighting your accomplishments, milestone covered, and contribution to your particular field of expertise. This is key, this is important, and you need to show documented proof and evidence to this regard. Number 4. You need to show proof or evidence that you single-handedly or as part of a collective help to critique the work of subordinates in your field of expertise, showing them how they could have done it better or showing them how they could have done something that would have been groundbreaking. Number 5. You need to have written scholarly papers in a journal or a publication of note that highlighted your contribution due to maybe your research or maybe some scientific work that you've done that enhance your field. Number 6, you need to show evidence or proof of books written by yourself or journal contributions by you in either a national capacity or an international capacity that proves that you've made huge strides in your field of endeavor. Now remember, like I said earlier, you don't need to meet all 6 criteria. All you need to meet is 2. You need to have document or proof that you meet 2 of these criteria to be eligible to be granted visa under this subcategory. We're going to move on to the Eb1c subcategory. Now the Eb1c subcategory is a category under the employment-based first preference visa for multinationals who are executives or managers in their home country. Okay, so you need to show extraordinary or exceptional ability in the field of business, either as an executive in a boardroom or a manager in a managerial capacity. But whatever you're being granted visa for, whether it's as an executive or as a manager, there needs to be a document which is going to be submitted by the US company that is granting you employment that shows the relationship in which you're going to be working as. What this means is very simple. Say for example, Pfizer or JP Morgan and Chase Bank is offering you an executive position in their bank or a management position. There needs to be a document that highlights that Mr. Fuse is being hired from Nigeria as an executive in our bank or as a manager in our bank, and he is going to be in charge of blah blah blah. It has to be categorically highlighted. It's perceived as a document that shows the relationship between the alien from a different country and the company who is hiring him or her in the US. For this subcategory, in most cases, the US company who is hiring this professional, whether in an executive capacity or in a management capacity, are usually the parent company of a subsidiary in this applicant's country. It could also be an affiliate company who has an affiliate relationship with the company this applicant is working right now, and the head or the other company who is employing this applicant in the US. To be eligible or to qualify for a visa under this subcategory, there are 3 criteria that need to have been met. The employer who is offering this person employment must be a company that is located in the US. So you can't have an employer outside the US looking to offer you employment in the US if they don't have a base of operation in the United States. So the employer who is offering the applicant employment needs to exist and needs to be resident in the United States. Number 2, the employer in the US needs to show proof that they have been in existence or operating for a period of a year and above as a subsidiary, an affiliate, or show some level of ownership of the company in the US looking to offer employment to the applicant. I repeat, the company looking to offer the applicant employment in the US needs to show that they have been operating for a period of 1 year and above. They need to show that they are subsidiaries or affiliates of the company in the US looking to offer the applicant employment. They need to show some level of ownership that has been existing for a period of 1 year or greater. Number 3, the job specification that the applicant is being recruited for needs to be in an executive position or a managerial role. It can be anything other than these 2 categories. It has to either be an executive position or in a managerial role. Anything other than this, you are not going to be granted your green card. You're not going to be granted visa at all. Another thing that you need to note under the third criteria, where it has to be an executive position or a managerial position, it has to be a position that is functional, that is integral in the operational capacity of this company. It has to be a position in which the applicant can make huge difference, can show his experience of making huge strides in his country of nationality. Now, it is assumed that he's going to take that body of experience garnered while working in the subsidiary in his home country and apply it in this particular field or role while working for the company in the US. So it has to be a position where this applicant is going to make a huge impact. The US employer, which is the company which is offering the applicant's employment under the subcategory of multinational executive or manager, is tasked with the responsibility of submitting a form I-140, which is a form that is used to categorize the applicant as a multinational who is being employed as an executive or a manager. Under the subcategory, submitting labor certification is not a key requirement. Like I said earlier when I was trying to explain how to secure a visa under the Eb1 Executive and Management subcategory, the company who is hiring the applicants needs to put out some form of statement, maybe in the press and the media, or some form of statement that categorically says we're offering Mr. A employment to be an executive in our boardroom, to be a manager in charge of blah, blah, blah. This is a key requirement by the State Department that companies who are hiring multinationals under the subcategories have to meet. If they don't meet this, if they forget or someone drops the ball and don't put out a statement and there's no document capturing this particular relationship between he who is being recruited and he who is doing the recruiting to the US, there's a chance that you will not be granted visa under the subcategory. Between the years or the period between 2016 and 2017, there was a high clamor for the Eb1c visa, the visa under the subcategory that covers executive and management. There was a clamor for this visa, particularly from Indians in India and Chinese people in China looking to get into the US or looking to get green cards to offer their services as executives or managers in the US. Now, because of this mass struggle or because of this mass movement for this particular subcategory of the Eb1 visa, it has led to a delay in the processing of this visa. So these people who apply for this visa under this subcategory have been made to wait longer because of the amount or the huge amount of applications that come in every year. How can you apply for the Eb1 visa? I'm not going to beat around the bush, guys. It depends on your country. The United States has allied countries, countries who have been known to be in good terms and who have a very good standing and good relationship with the United States. So I'm not going to sit here and mess around with you guys and tell you that every country can apply for the Eb1 visa and you're going to get it. If you are not a strong ally, if you're not from a strong allied country to the United States, you could get it because you could have made huge strides in your field, particularly the field that was highlighted that are accepted under this visa category, and you could be granted visa. It might take longer, but you could be granted. But if your country is an ally of the US, you stand a greater or bigger chance of getting this visa quicker than most other people. And while filing the visa, or while applying for the visa under the Eb1 status, you do not need, I repeat, you do not need a labor certification. And you can file your form 140, which basically talks about who is employing you, what you're going to the state to do, your relationship between where you're coming from and where you're going to, and your form 485, which is basically for your status adjustment. You can file both forms concurrently, meaning at the same time. Two other documents are needed to have been filed. You need to file a Form 131 and a Form 765. Now your Form 131 confers on you the eligibility to apply for employment, and your Form 765 confers on the applicant the ability to travel within the US, while your Form 140 and other documentation is being processed. So while your status in the US is being regularized, filing a Form 131 and a Form 765 need to be done to regularize your stay in the US while other documents are being processed. So there's going to be no hassle. Nobody's going to stop you and saying your stay in the US is illegal when you file this order to supplementary forms. Now guys, I have to stress this here. To get a visa under the employment-based first preference status, all the documentation that are required of you need to be submitted. And it needs to be clear, understandable. No explanation is required or needed. The document needs to speak volume. Your accomplishments, your awards, and every other form of document you submitted need to speak volumes of your accomplishments. If this is not done, and all the criteria for both the first, second, and third categories are not met, it's going to be a very daunting process. It's going to be a very long, drawn-out process. And you don't need this. You need to submit a documentation that's going to get you receiving this visa, receiving your green card as soon as possible. So when you touch down the US, you touch down as a legal immigrant. So guys, I'm going to move on now to what you need to apply for the second preference employment-based visa to the US to get your permanent residency and your green card under the Eb1 status. Okay? If you want to catch that video, I would suggest you go down, smash the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell so when that video drops, you're going to catch it as soon as it drops. And give us a like, okay? If I'm able to get 1,000 likes in this video, and if I'm able to get 500 people to comment in the comment section, I want to know more, I'm going to tell you how you can get your petition, your self-petition approved if you are applying for this visa under the subcategory of extraordinary abilities. Okay, so if you're interested to know how to get your petition approved, then I would suggest you click the like button and you leave a comment in the comment section that says, I'm interested in knowing more. Okay, so let's move on to the Eb1 status.